Hi there, I'm Lori, and today I'm going to show you how to break down any decluttering project into manageable steps. I believe that even tackling one project like this can begin a chain reaction that motivates us to continue making room in our lives for what matters the most. First, I want to share with you how I think about decluttering. Make sure to stick around because I'm going to be sharing with you 6 specific steps to help you tackle any decluttering project. I think about decluttering as being divided into 2 distinct categories: lifestyle-based decluttering and what I like to call project-based decluttering. Let me explain. Lifestyle-based decluttering is synonymous with and what we would all refer to as minimalism. To me, minimalism is a mindset and a lifestyle that helps me carry through with my daily habits and goals in a way that aligns with my values. Approaching minimalism can seem a little overwhelming, but it starts with learning why you would even want to pursue less and gathering practical tips on how you would set up new habits related to spending, reducing, and weeding out excess possessions and activities that aren't in alignment with your core values or goals. It's a mindset and a lifestyle that shapes our habits to create more opportunities for us to pursue what matters the most to us. You don't need to achieve some arbitrary number of items of clothes hanging in your closet or only use 1 glass per family member before you can start calling yourself or even just thinking of yourself as a minimalist. All you need to do is identify how minimalism could improve your life and start taking steps toward that goal. Which leads us to the second, lesser known type of decluttering that I maybe made up, but I like to call it project-based decluttering. Unlike lifestyle-based decluttering, project-based decluttering does have a finish line. Project-based decluttering is focused on specific projects that are clearly defined and have limitations. They are something you can accomplish, be done with, and feel good about. If you have ever gazed longingly at minimal lifestyle content, but just haven't been able to motivate yourself into action, or if this streamlined lifestyle seems unattainable for you or unappealing to you, but you still long for freedom and less stress, and you know that the culprit is clutter, then I'm suggesting that project-based decluttering may be an excellent entry point into the world of minimalism. How many of us have unfinished projects in the garage, or a stack of boxes of sentimental items pushed back into the corner of some closet somewhere that we would like to refine and organize, but we just don't quite know where to begin? I bet a lot of us do. I know I do. And even after 10 years of practicing minimalism in one form or another, I still have strongholds of clutter, but I've also learned how to tackle them when they build up. I believe that even tackling one project like this can begin a chain reaction that motivates us to continue making room in our lives for what matters the most. By tackling one project at a time, before long, I wouldn't be surprised if you also find yourself naturally and intuitively beginning to incorporate these project-based techniques into your lifestyle at large. Watch out, minimalism, here we come. Project-based decluttering is less about clutter-free drawers and countertops and more about clutter-free minds and hearts. But I think project-based decluttering is a vital step to help us reach those coveted clutter-free drawers and countertops. I mean, come on, I know you want them. I do. So let's get started. So I'm going to be using a project of mine today as an example to break down the steps and demonstrate to you how you can do the same process with any of your decluttering projects that seem overwhelming. Okay, it's time for what you've all been waiting for. I'm going to share with you my 6 steps to declutter anything. If you're enjoying this video, if you would please like and subscribe it, I would really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, step number 1, identify the project. Be specific. Project-based decluttering has clear goals and specific endpoints. This keeps us motivated and on track, and it lets us acknowledge and enjoy our accomplishment. So here's how I'm defining my project that I'm working on for this video. I am decluttering and reducing my 2 daughters' things into a manageable and easily accessible space. So see, right there I defined the project and I was specific. And I'm going to get a little more specific, but not too specific. I would like the memories I select to fit into 3 bins per child and be stacked neatly in the closet. I want to identify special projects as I declutter so that I can further edit and curate a thoughtful collection of our favorite memories of their childhoods. I am okay with some bulky items that don't fit in the bins being stored in the closet for now. Okay, so there we go. I defined my project and I was specific, but I wasn't too specific because we don't want to get hung up in this first step. We want to get started. So I'm going to share with you a couple other examples of how to get more specific. So instead of saying, I'm going to declutter my closet, I could say, I'm going to go through my closet and remove all of the clothes I no longer wear. I will donate maternity clothes and clothes that I haven't been wearing recently, and I will limit the number of clothes that I no longer fit into, but I still want to save, into one bin and store it in the upstairs closet. Okay, I'm going to give you one more quick example so it's really clear in your head how simple this is, and then we're going to move on to step number 2. So say you have a bunch of old photos you need to organize. So instead of just saying, I'm going to organize my old photos, I could say, I want to organize my old photos. I will digitize my favorite photos and put the physical photos in an album or a box so that they can be stored safely to pass on to family members in the future. See, it didn't take long. Just define your project and be a little bit specific, and already you've laid a great foundation to start your project. Number 2. Know your why. Now, I talked about this more in depth in the video that I posted last week, and so there's a link for that in the description if you want to look into that. But basically, as humans, none of us would go through all of this work and trouble if we didn't have a reason why we were doing it. So it's really important to identify, why is this project important to you, and what result do you hope to get from doing it? Here's my why for this project. I am reducing and organizing my daughter's things because I want a curated and well-organized collection of our favorite memories with them that I can easily access. I want to honor my daughters by storing their memories in a respectful and organized way. Okay, my why was kind of a sad one, and I hope you're not thinking, what did I get myself into? I've already shared that story, and if you're interested in that story, there's a playlist for it linked in the description below, but we're going to stay focused on this project today. You don't have to have a sad story to take advantage of project-based decluttering. These 6 steps work for all sorts of decluttering projects. But I do want to mention that whether your decluttering project is an emotional one or not, this kind of decluttering can be deep work. When we're handling a loved one's things, or even when we're handling our old past memories, a lot of emotions and memories can come up from the surface that we haven't dealt with for a while. And I just want to encourage you that if you had the desire to do this, you're equipped to do it now. You're not the same person you were 10 or 20 years ago, and you're strong enough to handle those now. And you're wise enough to weed through those memories and select the ones that you want to keep and that are part of your story. And you can let go of the ones that you've moved on to that don't serve you and aren't part of your story any longer. This type of decluttering isn't always, but can be very personal in solitary work, but the results can be profound, so don't give up. Sometimes holding the past with purpose and wisdom brings us to a place where we have the freedom and the confidence to start something new. All right, I warned you last week, that's what you get with me. We go from surface level to really deep, really quick. But hey, I'm bringing you back to the surface with number 3, so don't freak out. Step number 3, set goals and boundaries. So remember in step 1 where I told you to identify your project but not to get too specific? Well, that's because in step 3 we are getting a little more specific. So here are some of my goals and boundaries for this project. I would like to have this project done before the school year ends and my son is home for the summer. I will work on this project at least once a week until it's finished. I will use my side project bin to keep side projects organized, but I will not start working on side projects until I have finished this project. It's so easy to get distracted by something you find when you're decluttering and get pulled into a side project. Establishing your goals and boundaries doesn't have to be difficult either. This entire process is designed to create as little friction as possible. And while typing it out or writing it down is a great idea, you don't have to do it. But I do think if you just grab a sheet of paper and jot them down really quick, their only purpose is to keep you moving forward. So it's a good idea to do that. So our goals and boundaries give us limitations and motivation. So I think it's good to have the limiting pieces in there and the motivating pieces in there. For example, the limiting piece might be the time, like I'm giving myself until this date to do it. And you get to set your boundaries. You know the scope of your project, you know your schedule, you know how much you have to give to it now. So if you have a really aggressive goal, you might have a project and say, I'm going to finish this project in 1 week and put that on the calendar. Or a project like mine, I have a really loosey-goosey kind of time goal because it's a deeply emotional project and I have the space for it. It's not really in the way and interfering with my regular life. And so my goal is just to get this project done before my son's out of school for the summer. And then I also have another time piece on that. I will work on it at least once a week until it's finished. I think that's especially important when you have the longer time goals. If your goal is, a couple hours or a couple days or a couple weeks, you're more motivated to get that done. But when you have a really long-term project goal, I think it's important to establish some sort of rhythm so you keep coming back to it. And so I've said I'm going to work on this at least once a week. Maybe I'll get motivated and work on it for a whole week at once and be done with it really soon. Or maybe I'll get distracted by something else, but I know, and I'm going to put it on my calendar, I need to come back to this project at least once a week until it's done. And another thing that's really important when setting your goals and boundaries is to have some sort of motivator. And I'm realizing now that mine doesn't actually have that, but I'm very internally motivated to do this because for me, it's the next step in healing from losing my daughters. But I have a couple examples of some other made-up projects I'm going to share with you. So say your project is to clear out a room or a den of all of the clutter that's in there to make room for a new passion. Maybe it's painting and you want to buy painting supplies and an easel and canvases and set everything up in there, but get started. So instead of going ahead and purchasing those items now and shoving them off somewhere until you get the room decluttered, you could set a goal kind of attached to a reward for yourself and say, I'm not going to buy any new painting supplies until I'm finished clearing out all the supplies and materials from the hobbies that I'm no longer pursuing or that I'm not pursuing right now. Okay, I'm going to give you one more example on this one because I feel like this one's kind of the hardest one. Okay, so let's use the family photo example again. Remember, we talked about that example of not just saying I'm going to organize my family photos, but I'm going to digitize my family photos and I'm going to store them properly and I'm going to share them with family members. Well, maybe here's your boundaries and motivating piece for that goal. For the next month, I will only watch Netflix while I'm digitizing old photos. So there's a limit piece and a time piece in that. So you can get really creative with this and you don't want to be too strict with your goals, but you just want to make sure you have some sort of limit and some sort of motivating piece in there to keep you focused and moving forwards. Step number 4, I call it divide and conquer. This is the step where I'm going to explain all the bins to you. I know everyone's always interested in the bins. So thinking about your project and creating some categories to divide it into while you're working on it makes the project more focused and more efficient. I have a lot of items to go through and a lot of them are bulky items. And so I'm going to be using big tote bins with big bold signs. Now, these signs aren't going to stay on them forever. Sometime I'll just put nice, neat labels on them, but for right now, I just want a visual clue. So one of the purposes of the categories and the signs or labels is that they act as a visual cue. So you don't have to keep thinking, what goes in this bin? What goes in that bin? What was that pile for? your brain sees the sign and it knows, and you can use all of your energy and brain power for actually handling the things and making the decisions. Because whenever you're doing a decluttering project, you're making a lot of decisions very quickly and your brain can get tired. So the bins and the labels just make it easier for your brain to process. This is what my space looks like right now, and I'm going to explain my bin system to you. Okay, so over here we have the category gone, and these are the things that we want gone. This is one of the categories that I have subdivided into donations or things that I might want to see if I can sell and get some money out of. And of course I have my black trash bag handy because there will be things that just need to be thrown away. The next category I created, I'm calling it gold, and I actually have 2 bins for each girl. So I have 2 Clara gold, and over there I have 2 Anna gold, since I'm going through both of their things at the same time. But this is just the things that I love. These are the best memories. This is like the final destination. This is the heart of the project right here, is getting everything into these gold bins. Yeah, so that's what those are for. Okay, the next bin that I have is the Time Will Tell bin, and any of you who watch The Minimal Mom know that this is Dawn's creation, and it is so helpful, so thank you, Dawn. I've been using this for years, and I love it. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Time Will Tell bin, basically, this is the place for your hard decisions. This is the place for the things where you're like, it's not a clear yes, I don't love it, but maybe I'll want to keep this, or maybe someone else will want this later, or I paid a lot of money for this, I'm just not ready to let it go. So things that are kind of in limbo go in the Time Will Tell bin. There's things that are clear no's, they're gone. There's things that are clear yeses, they're gold. And then there's things that we struggle with a little bit. And so this Time Will Tell bin keeps us moving forward, keeps us working on our project and not wasting a whole lot of time deliberating. Go ahead and throw it in the Time Will Tell bin. And this is something that you can revisit later and see how you feel about it at a later time. Okay, so my last and busiest category is what I'm calling the action area. And this one needs maybe a little bit more explaining than the other ones. Okay, so my action area is my other area that I have subdivided, and I have this subdivided into projects and tasks. So like I mentioned earlier in the video, when I'm going through this project, I'm coming across other things that could distract me. They're side projects, and they might be related to the project I'm doing, but they have enough going on with them that they're kind of their own thing altogether. And so rather than get pulled away and distracted from this job, I'm going to put all the side projects over here. And I have the side projects classified as either a project or a task. So basically I'm defining a task as something that can be handled in less than an hour, but some of them may be significantly less than that. I know they have tasks in there that would take 2 minutes, like an envelope that has a friend's address on it. And I know it's a new address that I don't have in my book yet. And so sometime I'm going to grab that envelope and put their new address in my book and then throw the envelope away. So that's a task. I don't have to act on this right away, but it's filled with small things that I do want to not let slip through the cracks. Now, depending on what you're going through, you may come up with multiple other projects you want to do, and that's great. It's kind of like getting a head start on your next project, and that's awesome. So you can see how this process can be ongoing, but you set the limits, you set the terms. But this way it keeps the project contained and corralled, and then you get to revisit that project the next time you have the motivation or the desire to do another project. So I did actually already start working on this to some degree the other day, but it's nowhere near done. And I identified quite a large side project, which I actually put in an entirely separate room. But this side project has to do with all of the paper clutter. My daughters had so many papers and homeschool papers, and I love our homeschool memories. They just bring back so many good memories and just remind us of all of these things we shared together and just how capable and bright and full of life they were. I want to keep a lot of them, but there's definitely way more here than I want to keep. I don't need to keep, you know, a 5-inch stack of math worksheets at all, but I might want to keep like 10 worksheets. So this is a side project where I am going to organize all of their paper clutter into 1 or 2 big, nice, fat binders. And then those binders are going to go into their gold bins. So this project is related to the other one, but this is one that could very easily draw me away from that and pull me in and take a long time. And then I still have that whole mess going on over there. So I have a whole side project, like area set up for this one project. But I think for most projects, just having a simple project and task bin set up is fine. And if your project exceeds the limit of the space you have, move it off site, right? So don't worry too much about the actual bins you will be using. In many cases, you might not even need to go out and buy any bins because most of these bins are temporary holding locations to help me organize and accomplish the project. The only bins that I'm actually going to be keeping for this purpose long term are the gold bins. So just remember, you don't have to have a bunch of coordinating bins. Just anything that can be a temporary holding station for your categories as you work through the project will work just fine. Okay, so before I lose you and you run off to grab and label your bins, I want to share with you step number 5, which is get to work. Up until this point, all the steps have been laying the groundwork for you to be able to get to work. You've identified and defined your project, and you were specific, but not too specific. Number 2, you know your why. You know why you're doing this and what you want to get out of it. Number 3, you've set some goals and boundaries to keep you on track and motivate you as you complete your decluttering project. Number 4, you've divided and conquered. You have your bins and your categories, and you're ready to get going. And number 5, get to work. Get it done. This is your project and your process, so do what works for you. Your project may be accomplished in a week, or it may take you 3 months to accomplish your project. But whenever you have completed your project, we don't want to forget the final step. Step number 6, acknowledge, commemorate, or celebrate your accomplishment. Don't underestimate the value of what you've just done. When you finally complete your project, acknowledge that you've completed it. Tell yourself, good job. Take a minute to notice how completing the project made you feel. Do you feel less stressed, more confident, relieved it's over, ready for another project? Have you noticed that some of the decision-making and decluttering tactics have found their way into your regular lifestyle? Just acknowledge your accomplishment to someone. They don't have to have known you've been working on it. I don't always tell people what I'm working on. Sometimes I like to wait till I'm done because sometimes I think, maybe I won't finish this. I don't want anyone to know I'm doing it in case I fail. Maybe you tell a coworker, hey, this weekend I finally finished digitizing all of my family's old photographs. And maybe they're like, oh my goodness, that's amazing. How did you do that? I have a box of old photographs and I've been meaning to do that for years, but I still haven't gotten around to it. How did you do it? And all of a sudden, you're an expert. You might be surprised how accomplishing something relatively simple might make you seem like an expert in the eyes of a friend or someone in your community. You've accomplished something cool. And whether it's just cool to you or whether it's also cool to the people around you doesn't really matter. You've shown yourself that you have what it takes to conquer the clutter. You might even feel like celebrating, or maybe you're content with that quiet satisfaction that you did something hard and you did it well. Okay, well, I feel like this video has been jam-packed with some really useful information. I hope you thought so. Let me know in the comments which tips you found the most helpful or which project you plan to get started on soon. I'll be back with an update on my project soon. Happy decluttering, and thank you for watching till the end of the video.